All right, we're back. It's Thursday here at Whitefeather Meats, and today you saw how we butchered a pig, sort of the homestead style in the barn a year and a half ago. But a lot of people were requesting that we do one more in a commercial setting using our bandsaw. So today that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna show you the whole process. Make sure you stay tuned throughout the video because we're gonna be explaining smoking, some curing. We're gonna be doing some sausage making towards the end of the video. And today you're gonna get all of us in it. So you're gonna get Scott, you're gonna get Sean making some sausage, and let's just go ahead and get started.
So this is number 1 of 8 pigs that we're gonna be doing today. And begins with some normal trimming. One of the number 1 things we're gonna do, first things we're gonna do is pull out this called leaf lard. We do render this down and make lard out of it, or you can add it to your sausage trimmings.
If you like flaky pie crust, use some pork lard. You'll never regret it. So we're just gonna pull a little bit of this loose fat out of here. Like Scott said, we are gonna save it and render it down. I like to pull the spinal cord out as part of this process right here. Gonna go ahead and just remove the spinal cord. We'll discard that. Starting right here by this inner loin, you can take this flap right here at the top of this fresh side. There's a pork flank in there if you want to save it. We don't sell those here, so we don't save them. We'll grind it into sausage. Removing the spinal cord on this side. Let's do a little bit of trimming. So pretty much on each side of this pig, we're going to duplicate, back and forth from each side and just work our way through it. Now what I'm going to do is grab our handsaw, 27-inch, real nice handsaw. If you don't have one, snag one. We'll throw in a link. I like to start about 2 fingers from that pelvic bone. And you can see this is going to be the tailbone right here. You want to start at this angle. So if you get it at an angle like this or like this, it's going to throw the whole thing off. So 2 fingers, nice angle, back towards this tailbone, cutting through right there at that top of that sirloin. Same thing on this side. There again, we have our angle. As soon as you cut through that bone, go ahead and just stop. Now what we'll do is we'll hold this. This is the ham, so we're going to hold this ham up and just take your knife and cut through all the way through the bottom like this, removing that tailbone. Sort of set that one aside. Do the same thing on this side. Just like that. Now I should go over a little bit of the anatomy of the animal here real quick. We have the back end, which is the ham. We have this is the back of the hog, which this is where you're going to get your pork chops, your pork loin. We have a shoulder. That's going to consist of the picnic, the butt. We have the ribs, and then on this back side we have the pork fresh side. So just to give you an idea of how the layout of the hog is, and at this point we're just going to go ahead and start breaking it down and showing you all the cuts. So let's head over to the saw. So when we cut the shoulder off, we like to go about three bones in. So 1, 2, 3 to 4. We'll go ahead and remove the shoulder. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the loin from this rib and fresh side.
All right, while Seth's breaking that down, I'm gonna take this ham right here. We do like a lot of boneless hams. So I'm just gonna take a bit of this cover fat off. Reason being, this is gonna be made into ham steaks, boneless ham steaks, and nobody really wants a whole lot of fat. We do like a pig that, this pig dressed weight was 222 pounds. That's obviously feet off, head off, skinless. So we do like a larger pig. Feel like we get a better product, which the result of that is you're going to have some of this extra cover fat, but that's okay because you can add that back into your sausage and you can certainly make lard out of it. So once I have that off, I'm going to go ahead and take this H-bone out, and I can just, because I've got this semi-flex knife, I can just curve right along there. Now anything that I'm pulling off of this can go over to our trimmings table, where Sean is going to further trim excess fat, any cartilage, and he's going to be able to turn that into some sausage and brats. So H-bone removed, take just a little bit of this cartilage off of there. Then you can see kind of a natural seam right here. And if I start my knife just right down towards the bone, it's going to make contact with the bone. I'm going to stay out of that top round. You see I actually nailed that seam perfect whenever you see that on either side there. And then I'm going to go straight down through the joint right here. And then that allows me to pull off what we call this sirloin tip. You can make that into a roast. However, in this case, we're going to be making that into sausage. So that goes over to our trimming table. Now what we've got is semi-boneless ham. So what I like to do, apply some pressure right here. That's going to pull my ham up where I want, and then I can just trim that off. That way we get our first steak. It's nice and square. A lot of times we'll leave the hock on if it's going to be a holiday ham. In this case, we're going to make the entire thing into steaks. So I'm just going to cut right down along the joint there. That way we can net this. We're going to put it into our brine, and we'll make that into boneless ham steaks.
You saw the ham, now it's time for the loin. What I like to do is I like to start positioning this, just up against your body here. Take your knife today, of course, we're using the Victorinox, the trusty 6-inch semi-stiff boning knife. Pull towards yourself and just remove this excess fat on this pork loin. So, been at this a little while so I can make these nice long cuts, pulling this, nice big chunks of fat off just in one big swipe. I like to remove a decent amount of that fat so when our customers buy this in our retail store, they're not just paying for fat. So once we get this down to about right there, more fat to render down for that beautiful lard. At this point, we're going to take one loin and we're going to make it a bone-in option, and we'll take the second loin and we'll do a boneless option, sort of like we did in our beef processing video. So from here, let's just get started breaking it down. First up, bone-in loin. Sirloin butt roast. We're going to do some bone-in loin chops and then work our way down here to some country style ribs. So let's just get started. Starting off with a real nice sirloin butt. And don't get that confused with the shoulder butt. Two different things, and I'll show you. We always like to square these loins up before we get started cutting chops. If you don't, they'll be angled wrong throughout the whole cut. So, real nice 1-inch thick bone-in pork chop. I like to work my way down all the way to this end where I'm left with about 4 bones. So 1, 2, 3, 4 nice middle bones right here. We'll square it up. Then out of this, we're going to make some pork country style ribs. Removing that piece of vertebrae on the back so that we can cut down through here, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. So with that first loin, sirloin roast, bone-in pork chops, Scott's going to take a bone scraper. He's going to remove that excess bone dust on there before we put them in a package, make them look all fancy and pretty for our customers. time to show you these country style ribs. If you have a chance, grab one of these. This is made by Dexter. This is a meat hook. Works really nice to remove this membrane off these ribs. Just like that. Now what we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and grab my 8-inch Victorinox breaking knife. We're just going to cut down through these country ribs like that. So you're going to have one section that is bone in and one that's boneless. We're going to go ahead and just square these up, keeping in mind that anything that we trim off of these is going to go into our sausage. So when we square up a cut, that doesn't mean that we're going to throw that away. That just means that that's going to go into sausage. So there's the first set of country ribs, bone-in version. Here's the second set, which are the boneless version. And there you have it. That's the first loin. That's the bone-in. Next, we'll show you the boneless. Pork belly. Who doesn't love good bacon sizzling in the morning for breakfast? That's what we have right here. So we're going to go ahead and just show you how we extract the ribs and then how we trim up the belly for bacon. I like to start by scoring this membrane right here, and I'll show you why later, but we're going to go ahead and use our meat hook again and pull that off. And then right here you can see there's a row of little chine bones that run this way, sort of a soft cartilage. So you want to start just about an inch below those, just making a cut, but not going too deep into that fresh side. Then at that point, you want to just start right up here by these ribs. Keep your knife nice and flat. And just pull these spare ribs out. And I'll trim these up a little bit more later. Picture yourself on a Sunday afternoon, the smoker's fired up. You've got the Bearded Butcher blend seasoning to put on there and the Bearded Butcher barbecue sauce, and you're smoking some ribs. Sounds like a good time to me. Pork fresh side. So this is pretty much the whole thing. We're going to go ahead and trim it right here, and then we're going to go ahead and knock both sides off. And the reason why we do this is so that it fits in our slicer nice and square, and we end up with nice even slices of hickory smoked bacon. So there you have it, pork fresh side. A little bit later in this video, Scott's going to go over some of the smoking and curing for this, but until then, off to the next thing.
One of the things that we do a lot, now I want to point something out. We change our gloves a lot during the video. It gets edited out. That way you don't have to watch change our gloves. So when you see us going back and forth, cross-contamination is a big standard of ours. So I'm just going to point that out so that way, because you all are going to make comments. But anyway, these are clean. So what we like to do a lot of is, and this is where it all started, our Bearded Butcher Blend original seasoning was specifically made by Seth just to season our pork. That's what we use. About 50% of the pork that we sell gets the original seasoning on it, because that was our first all-purpose rub. It was simply a rub that we put on. It didn't have a name, and then what we did was we started putting a sticker on those packages that said Bearded Butcher approved, and the Bearded Butcher is our dad, and that was just basically the stamp of approval because it had our rub on it. And that was about 8 years ago, and since then it's grown into a whole line. But it started with the OG. OG is what goes on a lot of our stuff. So what we'll do as we're packaging is we have a tub with a liner in here, and what we'll do is we'll just, whatever cuts we want to season for the day, we just take and season them as we go along. That way, when they go into the package, we actually vacuum seal these. So when we go into the package, they're going to be, they're going to have the advantage of the vacuum seal. That's always something you can do at home if you're packaging. A lot of vacuum sealers are available out there now that you can pre-season and vacuum seal, because it's just going to pull those spices right into the meat a little bit more. Nothing better than a Bearded Butcher Blend seasoned pork chop on your grill.
pork shoulder. One of the best cuts for smoking and making pulled pork. We're going to show you how we fabricate it. First off, we're going to pull this neck bone out. Save your neck bones. Use them for broth if you'd like. You can smoke them, add them to beans. Makes a real tasty enhancement to your bean soup. Keep your knife nice and close to that bone as you extract it, just like that. Pork neck bone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this jowl. You can smoke the jowl. You can make jowl bacon if you wish. Today, we're going to turn it into sausage. So that's the jowl. Now right here, inside these pork shoulders, there's a gland. Right there in the front of that shoulder by that neck, there's always a gland right there. We like to remove that gland because nobody wants to bite into that in your pulled pork sandwich. Gonna go ahead and remove a little bit of this fat. You can take off as much as you want. If you want super, super juicy pulled pork, leave it on there. Here again, we try to trim these up pretty decent for our customers so that they know when they buy something here, they're not buying all fat. Okay, pork shoulder, there it is. Here's the shank. This portion of the shoulder is called the picnic. This portion is called the butt. So this has the blade bone in it. This portion is the best part for pulled pork in our opinion. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how we do that. Gonna go ahead and hop over here to our bandsaw. Gonna separate the picnic from the butt. You can certainly use these for a pork roast. This one, we're gonna actually remove this blade bone out. We're gonna season it and we're gonna net it because that, in our opinion, makes the best pulled pork. So this is an arm roast or a picnic roast. We like to just trim them up a little bit, just like that. We'll take our scraper and we'll remove that bone dust off of there. So typically you're gonna get about 2 of these per side of pig. That's cut, 2 to 3 pounds. If you wanted a bigger one, obviously you'd only get 1. So those are our arm roast. And at this point, we're gonna make this pork butt boneless. You can leave the bone in it too if you'd like. Our customers have kind of gotten used to buying these boneless, seasoned and netted. So you just take your knife, stay right on the top of that blade bone, flipping it over. Use your fingers to kind of pull that meat just a little bit. And just remove that bone right out of there like that. So now we have a boneless pork butt that we're gonna season with original Bearded Butcher seasoning, throw in a net, and it's ready for the smoker. Pork ribs. Spare ribs, this is a full rack. Today we're gonna cut St. Louis style, and I'll show you how to do that. Remember that little trick I told you about the meat hook? Take your meat hook, get it underneath that membrane. You can use a towel for this if you'd like. You can use a paper towel, cloth towel, whatever. I like to use my meat hook. Works pretty well. I'm gonna go ahead and knock just these bones off a little bit so they don't break the seal on our vacuum pack. Now what I'll do is right here, this real soft cartilage that you can cut through without damaging the blade on your knife. So when you smoke these ribs, you can then cut down through these real nice, and you don't have to pick through this these soft bones here. These are like a little riblet. You can smoke them if you want. You can cut them up in these little cubes. They're tasty little treats. You just have to deal with these little bones in there. So that's how we like to sell them here in our shop. St. Louis style pork rib. And we're gonna season some of these too, so we'll show you how we do that. Pork shank, you can save it for soup stock if you'd like. We'll save maybe the nicest little chunk. Anything else is going to get trimmed out for sausage. You can also cure this. You can hickory smoke it, add it to bean soup, pork hock. Smoked pork hock makes bean soup pretty delicious. Uh-oh, the doctor's here.
Seth's got a pork butt here, and I'm just going to get it thrown into the seasoning tub. And one of the things we like to do start out is just wherever we took this blade bone, make sure we shake a bunch of seasoning in there, really get that flavor, get that deep burn with that flavor. And like mentioned, the vacuum seal certainly doesn't do us any harm either. One of the great things about seasoning in a tote like this with the liner is we virtually do not waste any seasoning because you can just roll this around. I know some of y'all are going to say something about scoring this. You can certainly do that. You have to understand, in our philosophy is a lot of times, we're going to do a lot of prep work for the customer, but ultimately if the customer wants to score this, they can take it out of the net, they can score it. If we scored it and they didn't want that done, well, there's no such thing as meat glue. So if you're thinking about whether or not we should score something like this, the customer can certainly do that because they have that option. There's a nice, beautiful Bearded Butcher Blend seasoned pork butt ready for the smoker.
Here, bro.
Oh, he wants me to put it in the net. Yeah, so we do a lot of these in the netting.
Get that out of your way.
And the reason being, we don't always know what application somebody has. If you're going to be doing this in any sort of crock pot or whatever, you might not want the thing falling apart. Also, it just looks really nice. So this is a number 16 net. Holds it together beautifully while we throw it on the smoker. And it also gives us a really nice presentation. And it just gives you that one extra option. So you can take this with the net, you can zip the net off, you can score it, you can do whatever you want. But that gives you options. So that's why we like to do some of that stuff. I never reach into the tub that has the spices on it with a glove that's touched anything other than, a fresh glove. So St. Louis style spare rib, we took that breastbone or that brisket bone off of there. Seth peeled them. And that's another thing with our ribs, because we're seasoning them, we don't want the customer to get it and still have that silver membrane on there. So they're peeled, they're going to be seasoned, they're going to be ready to go, and they're going to be awesome. We sell dozens of sets of these ribs in our store every week. Folks will tell us that they prefer the pre-seasoned rib versus the plain rib, even though that plain rib gives you a blank slate to do whatever you want. They prefer the Bearded Butcher Blend pre-seasoned rib over the plain rib.
Don't forget that if you can't make it into our shop to get some of this pre-seasoned stuff, grab the seasoning online, www.beardedbutchers.com. You can duplicate this at home. So you can get the cut at your local store, bring it home, thaw it out, season it, and do the same thing at home. So it's got to make sure that's clear that just because you can't buy it here pre-seasoned doesn't mean you can't do it yourself. That's the first half. So Scott showed you how to make the ham boneless. We did some pork shoulder roast. We saved some neck bones, pork hock, some pork chops. Bone-in version, we seasoned half, left half of them plain. Country style ribs, St. Louis ribs, pork shoulder butt roast. So now we're going to do the second half. We're going to do a little bit different. We're going to show you how to do boneless chops. Ham's basically going to be the same, shoulder will be the same, but we're going to do the boneless chops. And then Scott's going to explain the curing and the smoking process a little bit. Hey, keep it down over there. I can't hear. So he's going to explain the curing, the smoking process a little bit to you. And then at the end of the video, we're actually going to be doing a little bit of sausage making. And then we'll actually show you how we seal it to preserve it for the freezer. So let's just get started on the next half.
So here we have that boneless ham, and we're going to go ahead and put it in our netting. Now this is number 20 that we use for the hams, and using this stuffing horn here. Now with the ham, it's really important that you use a netting so that way it's going to actually hold that together. We use a brine that we've made here. Now bear in mind, we're not going to give away all of our trade secrets. Some of this stuff you'll have to figure out. So I'm not going to give you the 100% of the recipe, but I'll just say, you know, it's cold water. We use celery juice powder as opposed to sodium nitrite. That gives us our nice color. Then we also use sea salt and a few other things. So that's what goes into our ham. I'm going to actually inject the brine into this ham, and then we let it soak for right around 10 to 12 days before we put it in our hickory smokehouse. I have the advantage of a commercial pump here. For years as a kid, I did this with a hand pump, so this makes it really nice for me. Now that I've done this, I definitely cut my teeth with a hand pump. I pump thousands of these things. So what we can do is we're actually permitted to go 10% by weight, and then that cooks back out, so we're actually not selling anybody water. So I just go around my ham right here, and just by feel, I've learned where these hams are out. We do spot check them to make sure that we're not exceeding the allowable USDA allowable weight. But I just go around and I'm injecting that brine. Since it's such a large muscle, we can't really ask this brine from just a soak to penetrate all the way to the center. So by injecting, we make sure that we get all the way to the center. We get that nice, beautiful pink color and flavor all through our ham. So this is ready for a little nap in our brine, and then this will actually get hung in our hickory smokehouse, and we smoke these for about 14 hours. We do have a commercial smokehouse for that. It does use real hickory chips. So we'll see you in almost 2 weeks. So here's that beautiful slab that we're going to turn into bacon that Seth had. Now in this case, we actually do not inject, we simply soak. So this goes into our brine, and this is going to soak in here for about the same period of time, and that will penetrate. That will make it all the way through to the center of that bacon. So no need to inject. It's going to get all those beautiful flavors pulled into it, and then it's also going to go into our hickory smokehouse.
Side one's done, off to side two. You saw how we broke the first one down. We're going to do this one the same way. However, we're going to do boneless chops. So let's get to it. Shoulder, loin, fresh side.
I'm stealing this one out.
Scott's going to do that one. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how we make boneless chops. Here again, removing that external fat. Somebody wants to leave this on their cuts, they certainly can. Like I said earlier, we do this so that when our customers shop in our store, they don't feel like they're paying for all that fat. So be careful that you don't make a bunch of knife hacks into this loin. Nobody wants to buy a pork chop that has a big knife hack in it. Now that I have all that fat removed, go ahead and set it over on the table where we're going to put it in a box and get ready to render it. Now I want to remove this inner loin, this pork tenderloin, keeping the tip of your knife right up against the back of this vertebrae here. Keep the meat on the cut, not on the bone. Going to go ahead and extract that loin. So with a bone-in version, just remember that this tenderloin stayed in that bone-in pork chop. Now with the boneless version, we get a pork tenderloin and we get baby back ribs. So keep that in mind. Two different styles of doing this. I'm going to go ahead and just square it up a little bit. There you have a pork tenderloin. I'm going to score these bones right here with my knife. There again, so I can peel that membrane off. We're going to flip this loin over. I know just from years of doing this where to cut. Pretty much just run your knife down through, hitting this knuckle right here. So if you hit that knuckle just right, you can take that and just pop it. It'll come right off of there. With this sirloin, the first half I did a sirloin butt roast. With this one, I'm going to go ahead and make it boneless. Just removing this bone out of here. And then I'll grab my 8-inch breaking knife. Here again, squaring things up a little bit. Cutting some boneless pork sirloin steaks. Beautiful pork sirloin. You can see there's not a ton of fat on there since we pre-trimmed it. If you want to trim more off, you can. If you want to leave more on, you can do that as well. So once we have the sirloin pulled off of there, at this point, on the first half, we saved country ribs. On this loin, we are not. We want to extract these baby backs out of here, and we want to get as big of a baby back rib as we can. So just keep your knife. Now, if you're doing this at home, you can leave as much meat on these ribs as you like. So you almost have to make a decision whether you want to leave the meat on the ribs or on the pork chop. So we try to make it sort of a happy medium. Maybe leave a little bit more down here towards this end. Just continue to pull this loin out, making a cut right along the vertebrae bones, like that, and just pull those out. So now I have my baby back ribs, and I'll do a little bit more cutting on those, and then I will show you how we cut some boneless pork chops. It's easier to take a cut like this and trim it and square it up before you start cutting chops. That way you don't have to go through and trim each individual chop. Little bone there we'll remove. Just going to trim off this excess here on the side, and we'll just get to cutting some chops. It's your discretion, where you want to start on this loin. If you want a pork chop where you don't mind a little bit of fat in there, by all means save it. We're going to cut these about 1 inch thick. And you can see, since I trimmed that fat off the back of this prior to cutting these chops, that portion of the trimming has already been done. So if you look at this chop, just a real nice fat layer on there. If I hadn't have pre-trimmed those at this point, then I would have to go back through and trim each one, and they don't look as nice that way. You can cut these as thick or as thin as you'd like. You can do 3/4. You can do, maybe you want to do one that's a little bit thicker. Maybe you want to butterfly them. Maybe you want to take it like this and cut a pocket in it. You can stuff this, make a stuffed pork chop. You can butterfly it open, do butterflied pork chops. We sell them in our store as individual or 2-pack chops, so that's how we'll do it today. So there you have the boneless pork loin, tenderloin, boneless pork chops, sirloin chops.
All right, so 50% of the pork chops, the boneless pork chops now, are going to go into the seasoning pot for that blessed bath in Bearded Butcher Blend spice.
Baby back ribs. I'm going to go ahead and show you how we knock the bones off of these. You want to cut these bones so that after you smoke these, it makes it real easy for the customer to cut down through them and serve them. Here again, grabbing my meat hook, peeling that membrane right off there. Piece of cake. So you can see the difference between this baby back rib and that St. Louis rib. There's a difference in size. You can see where they came from. This one's extracted from the pork belly. This one's extracted from the pork loin. It has a little bit of that loin meat on there. So when you go into the grocery store, you come in our shop, you wonder what the difference is between a baby back rib and a St. Louis. That's the difference right there. Both delicious, delicious cuts. Throw on the smoker, lather them with barbecue sauce, and you'll be in heaven. Onto that second shoulder, removing that neck bone again. Save it for soup stock, smoke it, add it to your beans like I said earlier. Pull that right out of there. Remove that jowl. A lot of the old timers like jowl bacon. It does have a lot of glands and stuff in it, so if you don't mind eating those, go for it. Remove a little bit of this fat. I think with this shoulder, what we'll do is we'll cut some shoulder steaks, and then we'll leave a portion of this butt with the bone in it. So let's just get started on the saw.
She wants 6 3/4 inch to 1 inch thick shoulder blade steaks, 2 per package.
She wants blade.
Fresh.
Okay. So Scott just informed me that we do need some shoulder blade steaks. So these are not the blade, those are the arm. But I'm gonna save these anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut those arm steaks. At this point, I'm gonna turn that roast. And then from here, we can cut our shoulder blade. That's a pork shoulder blade steak. So you saw the roast on the first half. Now you get to see a blade steak. It's kind of a St. Louis style pork steak. So I needed 6 for the order. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut 6. And then I'll leave this as a nice little boneless roast that we can sell in the store. With our shoulder steaks, blade and arm, I want to trim them just a little bit. Square them up. That'll go into sausage. There's the blade steaks. These are actually for an order. So that's going to be a custom cut order. I'm going to take these arm steaks and just trim them up. We'll use our scraper to remove the bone dust off of these. And there's the arm steaks. So we'll get these all scraped up, show them on the table.
So as all the cutting's going on, Sean's been receiving these trimmings and he's been removing any bone and excess gristle. And then what he does, he takes it over to our grinder. Now he's got a hand blended mix of our maple sausage flavoring that we use. He's gonna be doing the breakfast links. We're actually gonna do about 75 pounds of maple. He's already run out some just plain ground pork. We get a demand for a lot of that stuff in our store too. We pre-mix the spices into the trimmings before we actually grind them out. And then when we grind it, it's gonna give us a really nice blend. We have the luxury of having a Butcher Boy A52 commercial grinder. We do a single grind on our sausage through a 1/8 inch plate. And mind you, because we went to all the extra work of hand trimming it, it's going to have a really nice texture to it because you're not going to have any cartilage or, God forbid, bone in the sausage. After he gets it blended, run through the sausage or through the grinder, he's going to go into the sausage stuffer. This is a Zuber Easy Pack piston stuffer. By that it means it has a piston that drives up through. This actually uses water pressure. So we've got a tank full of water, and then we've got a pump here, and then it actually drives a piston that's going to extrude that through the sausage head. Obviously, you can do this with a hand crank stuffer. You can use a smaller 1/2 horse, 3/4 horse, 1 horse grinder. The process is the same. It's just a matter of what tools you have available to you. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is pig 1 of 8 for the day. So we're gonna wind up doing close to 1,000 pounds of sausage. And had we not have the commercial grade stuff, it'd make for a long day. So as this builds pressure, he's got a 21 millimeter collagen casing on here. And then that gets extruded, and we've got beautiful maple breakfast links coming off the line. Now, if you'll step over here, I'll demonstrate. He actually already ran out the 1 pound packages of bulk ground pork. We like quite a bit of fat in our pork, about 75-25, because who really enjoys lean pork. Once again, we've got the commercial grade vacuum sealers. These are just on a large scale what you can get at home. And obviously being in the commercial meat business, we've got to have the big guns in order to get all this done in a day. Our pig, and we're going to go over all the cuts that we have off of it, you can manipulate the amount of grind that you get off of it, just how much, I mean, literally you could turn this whole pig into sausage. With the amount of cuts that we got off of there, we're going to be looking at roughly 50 to 60 pounds of trimmings for sausage. Had we put a ham or something in there, it's going to boost that up. So both my machines are done. We've got the vacuum seal packages now. We can get these in our flash freezer. These are going to go in our store. So while everybody's working on this, let's check back in and look at all those wonderful cuts.
So there you have it. We moved through this process pretty fast this morning, and if you felt like you were rushed, we apologize. We do have a bunch of work to do today. We squeezed this video in first thing in the morning because we want to show you guys how we do this on the Butcher Boy B16 bandsaw. We used our handsaw, 8-inch Victorinox, 6-inch semi-stiff, a meat hook. You know the tools. So here's the deal. This is what we have on our table. We have some pork shoulder steaks, arm. We have some blade, a couple hocks, some pork shoulder roasts. These are the arm roasts. We have a sirloin roast. We have a butt roast. We have bone-in chops. We have ribs. We have spares. These are the St. Louis seasoned and non. Baby back ribs, some pork sirloin, some boneless chops. We have a pork tenderloin. And then, so that's all the stuff that was unseasoned. This is all the seasoned stuff. Pork butt, country style ribs, bone-in chops. There's the St. Louis boneless chops. And also, don't forget, we have the ham soaking in the cure over here. We have the bacon soaking in the cure over there. And then Scott's also going to talk to you a little bit about the sausage that we made off this pig today, some maple, some bulk. And he's going to go over a little bit of the yields and the percentages that you could see off of a pig this size.
Yeah, so mentioned 222 was the carcass hanging weight. That was the pig after it was butchered, the dress weight of the pig. So it had no head, no hide, no feet, just the carcass. 222, we're probably looking at a yield of about 73% plus minus, which is going to give us about 150 pounds, maybe 160 pounds of actual closely hand trimmed, ready for the package pork. Out of that, we mentioned roughly 50 pounds of that being our sausage. And you can manipulate that different ways. Obviously, if you take any one of these cuts and you trim it out sausage as your sausage yield, that's how we cut pork. We've got about 26 different ways that we flavor sausage and bratwurst here at Whitefeather Meats. We're going to push through 8 of these pigs today. That's our style. Usually differs a little bit from other folks out there. We know what works for us. We know what our customers like. And we want to remind you, while you might not be able to get the actual pork from us, you can pick up your Bearded Butcher Blend seasoning in any one or all of 6 different flavors. It's going to enhance that experience you have at home. Get that smoker, get that Traeger pellet wood fire grill. We love ours. Get that big green egg. We love ours. I know these are big ticket items, but you can save up, you can get it, and you've got that experience for pretty much a lifetime.
www.beardedbutchers.com. Grab a bucket, weighs 4.5 pounds. You get a bottle, you get a shaker bottle for free. You're not going to regret it. Don't forget, subscribe to the Bearded Butchers on YouTube. Hit that bell for notifications. There's tons more to come. Follow us on Facebook, The Bearded Butchers, Instagram, Bearded Butcher Blend. You're going to love it. Appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, see ya.
In case you're wondering, I do know how to talk. I'm the oldest. I heard these words many times. Speak when spoken to. Not sure what happened with the other two. They talk a lot.
He didn't learn to read and write till later in life, so the speaking kind of came on after.
A little slow, but I can talk.